Monty is a character in Landman that's definitely one of the strongest performed characters, as it's done by none other than the awesome Jon Hamm himself. However, the character that many of us have enjoyed watching over the past 9 episodes could no longer be appearing in the show. During episode 9, the penultimate episode of the season, there was a heavy focus on Monty and the fact that he could well have died whilst laying in the hospital bed. At first, I believed that he did, but then after posting my previous video breaking down the episode, it got me thinking even more about it, and I'm starting to question if the show has just pulled the wool over our eyes and has made us think that he's died when he actually hasn't. So with that, I thought I'd go over the scene with Monty in the hospital, the ending scene with the Coyote, and how it all ties into Monty's fate. Plus, I'll also give my theories and predictions on if he's alive or not. So let's get into it. Here is Did Monty Die in Landman episode 9. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Monty is the head of MTech's oil company in the show, the company that Tommy works for and has long been associated with. During the most recent episode, we saw that he underwent his 3rd bypass, and it was the very thing that landed him in hospital. This occurred after he was on his way back from meeting with the governor, as he wanted the National Guard to have a presence on the land that the cartel were feeling as though they could treat as their playground with no consequences. We've seen throughout the episodes that Monty is a man who takes pride in his work, and he values it above all else, even his family. Something which he's now realizing might not have been the best thing to have done. With him caring about the work that he does, it gives him the opportunity to gain power, money, and brings him the hunger to make even more. This was supported in episode 7 where, as we saw, he agreed to a deal with Danny Blanton to drill more wells on the land that he was leasing, showing that he wasn't slowing down. However, that very hunger might well be what causes the character's downfall. Hearing that he was on his 3rd bypass showed that his heart was in a serious critical condition, and it wasn't getting any better. We even saw him come to the decision himself that he was planning on stepping back just a little bit due to realizing that if he wanted to live any longer than what it was looking like he was going to, he needed to take some work off of his plate and put that time, energy and effort into his family, as hopefully that would bring him a newfound happiness and a more relaxed life, as right now his daughters were nowhere to be seen in his most critical state because he hadn't given them the love and care that they needed whilst they were growing up. He'd always put his attention into his work life. During the final 10 minutes of the episode, after it seemed like Monty was doing okay following his bypass, we saw that he was in pain during the night when he was on his own, and his heart rate entered the red zone on the monitor, making it seem like he was having a heart attack. The last we saw of him, he pressed the emergency alert button on his remote, but we saw nothing else after that. This is what led many of us to theorize that Monty could well have died during the episode. Plus, with it also being paired with the fact that Tommy received a phone call from Cammy where we didn't hear what she said, but he responded to her in a sad tone and said, "Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. What can I do? Is there anything I can do to help?" It showed that it was serious. At first, I did initially think that that was the answer that somebody who was being told somebody had died would give. But then I actually realized that Monty is one of Tommy's best friends and not just a stranger or a boss. Even though Tommy is as tough as they come, I feel he would have shown some kind of emotion if he had have been told that Monty was no longer around. So I actually think that Tommy could have been told by Cammy that Monty had a heart attack and maybe he was in surgery or in an unknown state. Hence why he said, "Is there anything that I can do?" This could maybe be in terms of the company or with his workload whilst he was going to be in the state of recovery. I just feel like if he was told that he was killed, then he would have responded differently. There was a numbness to Tommy, but I think that was because he'd just received the news that he didn't expect. So one strong theory could be that when we last saw Monty, he had a heart attack during the night and was now in an unstable condition, not specifically dead. His heart rate went from a resting 80 to a resting 160. It almost doubled. And this is something that is said to increase the odds of death during a heart attack, the heart rate increasing so fast. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of state Monty will be in if he does manage to survive. It would have been bold for the show to have killed off Monty off screen, but I think instead of him being killed, he's going to be forced to take more of a backseat in his role in MTech's, or maybe even retire completely, just like how his father did at 68. But instead of dying of boredom like his father did, Monty might well enter a new chapter of his life where he begins to thrive in a completely different way. However, with him now being in a vulnerable state and the cartel knowing that he wasn't in the best of health originally, that could allow them to get the upper hand. When Jerry was alongside Monty the first time we visited the hospital, he also mentioned to him how it wouldn't be that day specifically that he'd be on his deathbed, and the people that he cared about would be around him. So I think that is also another clue that Taylor Sheridan has put in there with regards to the fate of Monty and him not actually being dead. One could also assume that when Tommy saw the coyote being shot by the neighbor at the end of the episode, that it could symbolize Monty being killed, as he was the predator that was there out of all of the characters. But it could actually mean something different. It could just mean that Monty had taken a hit and wasn't going to be the fierce predator that he once was when it came to being a leading figure and voice in the industry. A theory around Monty actually dying is pretty much the opposite of what I just explained. For example, Monty being on his third bypass is something that is very serious. The fact that his heart rate pretty much doubled when he went into cardiac arrest is significant and decreases the survival rate. And also, the episode having an overall focus on death and concluding with it is something that's pretty big too. One could also look at the coyote being killed out of the blue when Tommy was focusing on it, and it could represent and be symbolic of the fact that Tommy could have been killed out of the blue due to his heart attack. There have also been other moments in the show up until now about Monty not caring about the future of the sustainable energy that was on the rise, and showing no regard for the future generations that were set to follow after him. That could be seen as subtle foreshadowing, and the whole not caring about the future could be tied into the fact that it didn't actually matter for him, because he didn't have one, as it was always written that he was going to die. So there are definitely two different ways that we can interpret what happened to Monty following the emergency button being pressed in episode 9 and Tommy receiving the phone call from Cammy. But I don't think we're truly going to find out until the next episode gets released. So after taking all of that evidence into consideration, what do I think happened? Well, upon reflection, I don't actually think that Monty is dead. I think they've made it out like he's been killed by a heart attack, but in actual fact, he's just going to be forced into an early retirement and look to build the relationship with his family, following him knowing that if he continues the way that he is, he will actually end up dead. The placement of Monty's heart attack in the episode was something that I think could tie into the future of the show too. The short segment occurred right after Cooper was looking into developing his own business. We know that he has the passion to make something in that industry and also the brains. So could Monty's forced step back be an opportunity which lands Cooper back inside of MTEX? I guess we'll just have to see. So for now, I'd say let's expect to see Monty back on our screens next week, and if not, then I've been horrifically wrong. So, there you have it. Did Monty die in Landman episode 9? If you want to see more videos on Landman being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think? Do you think Monty survived? Let me know your theories and thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.